to say that it's true that communism is an evil system, but it permits us to make economic progress. Lass sie nach Berlin kommen. Let them come to Berlin.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, often referred to by his initials JFK, was the 35th President of the United States, serving from January 1961 until his tragic assassination in November 1963. Born on May 29, 1917, in Brookline, Massachusetts, Kennedy was the second of 9 children in the wealthy and politically influential Kennedy family, led by his father, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., a successful businessman and former U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom. His mother, Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy, was the daughter of Boston Mayor John F. Fitzgerald, further embedding politics into the family's legacy. Kennedy's early education took place at elite institutions, including the Dexter School and Choate Rosemary Hall, where he was known more for his charm and wit than his academic prowess. He later attended Harvard University, graduating in 1940 with a Bachelor of Arts in Government, concentrating on international affairs.
So let us not be blind to our differences, but let us also direct attention to our common interests and the means by which those differences can be resolved.
His senior thesis, Why England Slept, which analyzed Britain's lack of preparedness for World War II, was published as a book and became a bestseller, showcasing his early intellectual promise. During World War II, Kennedy served in the U.S. Navy, commanding a patrol torpedo boat, PT-109, in the Pacific Theater. In August 1943, his boat was rammed and sunk by a Japanese destroyer, leaving him and his crew stranded in the ocean. Despite severe injuries, Kennedy led his surviving men to safety, towing a wounded sailor by clenching a life jacket strap in his teeth, an act of heroism that earned him the Navy and Marine Corps Medal and a Purple Heart. After the war, Kennedy entered politics, encouraged by his ambitious father. In 1946, he won a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives as a Democrat from Massachusetts, serving 3 terms before being elected to the U.S. Senate in 1952. Defeating incumbent Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. as a senator, Kennedy focused on labor reform, civil rights, and foreign policy, though his tenure was interrupted by serious health problems, including Addison's disease and chronic back pain, which required multiple surgeries. During his recovery in 1954, he wrote Profiles in Courage, a book about U.S. senators who risked their careers for their principles, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Biography in 1957, further elevating his national profile. In 1953, Kennedy married Jacqueline Bouvier, a stylish and intelligent journalist, and together they had 4 children, though only 2, Caroline and John Jr., survived infancy. Their glamorous marriage and young family captivated the American public, reinforcing Kennedy's image as a vibrant and modern leader. Kennedy's rise to the presidency began in earnest at the 1956 Democratic National Convention, where he narrowly lost the vice presidential nomination but gained national attention. By 1960, he launched his presidential campaign, positioning himself as a forward-thinking leader who could guide America through the Cold War's challenges. His campaign emphasized his youth, energy, and vision for a new frontier, promising economic growth, scientific advancement, and civil rights progress. The 1960 election was historic, featuring the first-ever televised presidential debates, where Kennedy's poise and charisma contrasted sharply with Republican opponent Richard Nixon's more subdued appearance, significantly influencing public perception. Despite concerns about his Catholic faith potentially alienating Protestant voters, Kennedy secured a narrow victory, winning by just 0.1% of the popular vote.
Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Becoming the youngest elected president at age 43 and the first Catholic to hold the office, Kennedy's presidency was marked by both soaring achievements and profound crises. Domestically, he advocated for civil rights, though his efforts were initially cautious to avoid alienating Southern Democrats. However, after the violent suppression of the Freedom Riders and the integration crisis at the University of Mississippi,
if an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote, for the public officials who represent him, if in short he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place?
He took a stronger stance, proposing what would later become the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Economically, he promoted tax cuts and increased federal spending to stimulate growth, while his space program ambitions culminated in the bold declaration to land a man on the moon by the end of the 1960s, a vision realized in 1969 with the Apollo 11 mission. Internationally, Kennedy faced immense Cold War tensions, most notably during the Cuban Missile Crisis in.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States.
October 1962, when the US discovered Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. Through a combination of naval blockades and back-channel diplomacy, Kennedy averted nuclear war, negotiating the missile's removal in exchange for a secret pledge to withdraw US missiles from Turkey. His handling of the crisis is widely regarded as a masterclass in crisis management. Other foreign policy initiatives included the establishment of the Peace Corps, the Alliance for Progress to foster development, in Latin America and the escalation of US involvement in Vietnam, a decision that would later haunt his successors. Kennedy's personal life and public image were equally significant to his legacy. His charisma, eloquence, and youthful energy made him a global icon, while his wife, Jacqueline, became a fashion and cultural symbol, restoring glamour to the White House. However, his presidency was also shadowed by controversies, including persistent rumors of extramarital affairs and alleged connections to organized crime. On November 22, 1963, during a political trip to Dallas, Texas, Kennedy was assassinated while riding in an open-top limousine alongside his wife and Texas Governor John Connally. Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine with communist sympathies, was arrested for the murder but was himself killed 2 days later by nightclub owner Jack Ruby, leaving many conspiracy theories unresolved. Kennedy's funeral was a global event, with millions mourning as his body was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, where an eternal flame burns in his memory. JFK's legacy endures as one of the most influential and mythologized presidencies in American history. His speeches, particularly the inaugural address with its famous line, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," remain emblematic of civic idealism. His vision for civil rights, space exploration, and global diplomacy shaped decades of policy, while his untimely death left an indelible mark on the national consciousness, symbolizing both the promise and fragility of leadership. Though his time in office was brief, Kennedy's impact on American politics, culture, and identity remains profound, ensuring his place as one of the most studied and admired figures of the 20th century.